Emily Parker's life was meticulously arranged, much like the neat rows of her colored pencils on her work desk. She liked predictability, the kind that came with routines, small comforts, and an apartment nestled in the heart of London's quieter streets. At 28, she was a graphic designer who loved the solitude of her world. The hum of her computer, the scent of fresh coffee, and the soft glow of early morning light filtering through the curtains. That Tuesday morning, as usual, Emily woke at 7 a.m. and brewed her coffee just the way she liked it, strong with a hint of cinnamon. She pulled on a warm sweater, glanced out the window at the drizzle dampening the streets, and decided to check her mailbox before heading back upstairs. The steps of her apartment building were old and steep, worn smooth by decades of footsteps. She hurried down, the mail slot in sight, when suddenly a sharp, sickening thud shattered the quiet. Emily spun around to see a man tumbling down the slippery stairs. His dark hair was a wild mess, and his limbs flailed awkwardly as he hit each step. A gasp caught in her throat. Without hesitation, she rushed down the remaining steps and caught him before he slid the last few feet, landing hard on the cold stone. "Are you okay? Can you move?" she asked, crouching beside him, heart pounding in her chest. The man groaned softly, his face pale and sweaty. I think I twisted something, my arm," he whispered. Emily's hands trembled slightly, but she forced herself to remain calm. She reached out and gently helped him to sit up. His blue eyes met hers, piercing and wide, filled with pain but also an unexpected flicker of vulnerability. "Let me help you inside," she said softly, surprising herself with the tenderness in her voice. He nodded, a hesitant smile touching his lips. "Thank you. I'm James." "Emily," she replied, guiding him carefully into the warmth of her apartment. Once inside, she eased him onto her couch and grabbed a first aid kit from the kitchen. As she cleaned the scrape on his cheek, her fingers brushed his skin and a strange flutter rose in her chest. She was cautious by nature, but something about James made her want to reach out. "So how did this happen?" she asked, trying to keep her tone light. James grimaced. "I was in a rush, lost my footing. Probably a combination of too many things on my mind." Emily nodded, sensing there was more he wasn't saying. She wrapped his arm gently with a bandage, noticing the way he winced with each movement. Despite the injury, there was a quiet strength about him, as if he had weathered storms invisible to the eye. Minutes slipped by in comfortable silence until James looked around nervously. "I should probably get checked out. A concussion maybe." Emily hesitated. Normally, she would have hesitated to get involved, but something felt different this time. "I can take you to the hospital," she offered impulsively. He blinked in surprise, then nodded. "That would be great." As Emily called a taxi, she felt a strange mix of excitement and apprehension. This fall, accidental or not, was about to tip her life upside down in ways she never imagined. The taxi ride to the hospital was filled with an uneasy silence. Emily kept stealing glances at James, who sat quietly, wincing slightly as he tried to adjust his injured arm. She wondered what had brought this enigmatic man to such a reckless moment. His silence was heavy, not just because of pain, but because of something buried deeper. At the emergency room, they were quickly attended to by Claire Mitchell, a nurse with an easy smile and a calming presence. She immediately sensed the tension between the two strangers and the unspoken stories lurking beneath the surface. "Let's get you checked out properly, James," Claire said, her voice both professional and warm. "You've got a nasty sprain, and the concussion might need a scan just to be sure." Emily stayed by James's side as the hospital buzzed around them. Monitors beeped, nurses rushed past, and patients murmured softly in the waiting area. The sterile scent mixed oddly with the faint smell of antiseptic soap. As James underwent his tests, Emily found herself stealing small moments to talk to him. She learned that he was an architect who had recently moved to London. His voice was steady, but there was a weariness to it, a shadow that she couldn't ignore. "Why'd you move here?" she asked tentatively. James sighed. "Needed a fresh start. Things back home, they got complicated." Emily nodded, not pressing further. She sensed that this man who had just tumbled down her stairs was carrying invisible baggage. Something about him was raw and real, unlike anyone she had met in a long time. Hours passed, and Claire finally returned with the results. No fractures, but the concussion means you'll need to take it easy for a few weeks. Keep an eye out for dizziness or headaches." James exhaled, relief washing over his features. Emily offered to take him back to her flat, insisting it was safer for him to rest. Back at Emily's place, the air between them shifted from cautious to comfortable. They shared a simple dinner, pasta with tomato sauce, and gradually opened up in ways neither expected. James laughed quietly at Emily's dry humor, and she found herself drawn to his charm, despite the sadness lurking behind his eyes. The night grew deep, and Emily realized how long it had been since she had felt this alive, connected to someone outside of herself. But as she looked at James, she wondered what secrets his silence still held. The days that followed settled into a strange, fragile routine. James was still nursing his injured arm, and Emily found herself inexplicably drawn to his presence. There was something magnetic about him. Not just his sharp blue eyes or easy smile, but the quiet sadness that seemed to lurk just beneath the surface. James stayed in Emily's spare room, a small but cozy space she had always kept ready for guests. Each morning she brought him coffee and breakfast, and sometimes they sat together in the living room, sharing stories in hesitant fragments. One afternoon, Emily caught James staring at his phone in a way that was almost reverent. Curious, she asked gently, "Who's that?" He hesitated, then unlocked the screen to show her a photo. A woman with fiery red hair and a radiant smile. Her name, he said, was Lena, his ex-girlfriend. Emily could see the pain flicker across his face as he spoke. "We ended badly," James admitted. "It wasn't just a breakup. There's a lot I regret." Emily listened quietly, feeling a pang of sympathy. She could see how deeply the wounds ran, and how they haunted him still. Over the next few days, James began to open up more, revealing bits and pieces of his past. A childhood marked by emotional distance, a career that demanded perfection, and the loneliness that followed his recent breakup. His vulnerability surprised Emily, who had always been careful about who she let into her life. At the same time, Emily felt her own walls start to crumble. She was used to living in control, but James's presence unsettled her in the best and worst ways. She found herself wanting to reach out, to help him heal, even as fear whispered that she might get hurt too. Their connection deepened, but so did the unspoken questions. What else was James hiding? And could Emily be brave enough to face it? The steady rain outside mirrored the storm brewing inside Emily's apartment. James had grown quieter over the past few days, retreating into himself like a wounded animal. Emily noticed the subtle shifts, the way his eyes darkened whenever she asked about his family, the sudden silences that hung heavier than words. One evening, while tidying up after dinner, Emily discovered something unexpected. James's jacket was draped over the back of a chair, and a small envelope peeked out from one of the pockets. Curious, she hesitated for only a moment before pulling it out. The envelope was addressed simply to L. Inside was a folded letter, the ink slightly smudged as if it had been carried around for a while. Emily unfolded the paper carefully and began to read. The letter was filled with regret and longing. A desperate plea for forgiveness, a recounting of past mistakes and broken promises. It was from James, addressed to someone named Lena, his sister. When James returned to the room, Emily held the letter out to him silently. His face drained of color. For a long moment he said nothing. Then, voice low and raw, he confessed, "Lena is my sister. We haven't spoken in years." Emily's heart ached for him. She saw the pain etched in his features, the deep fissures left by fractured family ties. James shared more. How his family had fallen apart under the weight of betrayal and misunderstandings. How he had been blamed unfairly for things he hadn't done. The isolation had hardened him, making trust a scarce commodity. Emily listened with growing compassion. She realized the guarded man before her was not just broken by the fall down the stairs, but by a lifetime of wounds. As the night deepened, their fragile bond grew stronger, knit together by shared vulnerability. Yet, Emily wondered if love alone would be enough to heal what time and pain had torn apart. The days slipped quietly by, weaving a fragile tapestry of companionship between Emily and James. She found herself drawn deeper into his world, even as shadows from his past lingered on the edges of their moments together. It was during one of these ordinary evenings that the unexpected arrived like a storm breaking over calm seas. Emily had just finished preparing dinner when her phone buzzed insistently. The caller ID showed an unknown hospital number. She answered cautiously, and on the other end was Claire, the nurse who had cared for James during his emergency visit. "Emily, I hope I'm not disturbing you." Claire's voice was soft but serious. "There's something I think you need to know about James." Concern prickled Emily's skin. "What is it?" "There are some medical details that James hasn't shared with you. His condition is more serious than just a sprain and concussion. It's progressive, and it could affect his independence and career." Emily felt the ground shift beneath her feet. "Why didn't he tell me?" Claire hesitated. "It's complicated. But I thought you should hear it from someone who cares." The next evening, Emily sat across from James, the weight of Claire's words pressing on her chest. "James," she began gently, "I need to know what's really going on." He looked away, voice thick with emotion. "I have a neurological condition," he admitted quietly. "It's getting worse. Faster than I thought." Emily's heart ached. The man who had tumbled down her stairs, the one she was beginning to care for, was fighting a battle far greater than she had imagined. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she forced herself to stay strong. "We'll face this together," she promised. James looked at her, vulnerability shining through. For the first time, the mask of charm and guardedness slipped, revealing the fragile man beneath. That night, as they sat side by side, Emily understood that this unexpected twist was not the end, but the beginning of a new, uncertain journey. One where love, courage, and hope would be tested like never before. The following weeks were a whirlwind of adjustments, emotions, and quiet battles. James's diagnosis hung between them like an unspoken shadow, casting uncertainty over every interaction. Emily found herself stepping into roles she never imagined: caregiver, confidant, and unwavering support. Each morning began with careful routines, medications organized on the kitchen counter, gentle reminders to rest, and cautious encouragement to push through the inevitable frustrations. James fought fiercely against the creeping limitations, his pride warring with the vulnerability forced upon him. At times, he would withdraw completely, shutting Emily out as if to protect her from the burden he felt he was becoming. The silence was suffocating, yet Emily refused to let go. She learned to read the subtle signs, the clenched jaw, the tightening of his hands, and found ways to reach him even when words failed. Their relationship deepened in unexpected ways. Shared laughter over small victories, the first time James managed to walk a little farther, a new recipe they attempted together, became lifelines in the storm. Emily's patience and compassion nurtured a fragile hope, even as fear lingered. Yet the strain was undeniable. Exhaustion crept into Emily's bones, and moments of doubt gnawed at her resolve. She questioned whether love alone could withstand the weight of illness and uncertainty. One late night, as James confided his darkest fears and frustrations, Emily held him close and whispered, "You're not alone. We're in this together." In that embrace, trust blossomed, a fragile, beautiful bond forged through pain, honesty, and unwavering commitment. But fate, ever unpredictable, had one more secret to reveal. It was a quiet evening, the kind where the city lights blurred into a soft glow through Emily's apartment windows. James sat on the couch, his gaze distant, fingers nervously tracing the edge of a cushion. Emily watched him carefully, sensing a storm behind those thoughtful blue eyes. After a long silence, James finally spoke, voice low and trembling. "Emily, there's something I need to tell you. Something I haven't been able to say out loud, even to myself." Her heart pounded as she moved closer, taking his hand in hers. "Whatever it is, I'm here." He took a shaky breath. "The fall down the stairs. It wasn't an accident." Emily's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" James looked away, struggling. "I was in a dark place, overwhelmed by everything. The pain, the loneliness, the fear of losing who I am. I didn't want to hurt anyone, but I didn't know how else to ask for help." Tears filled Emily's eyes as the truth settled between them. This fall was a cry for connection, a desperate plea during his battle with depression that had remained hidden beneath layers of charm and guardedness. She squeezed his hand gently. "Thank you for telling me. I'm here now. We'll face this together." James nodded, relief and fear mingling in his expression. From that moment on, the walls between them dissolved. They embraced the uncertainty of the future with courage, understanding that healing was not a straight path, but one marked by setbacks and victories. Emily realized that sometimes the deepest falls bring the strongest rises, and that love, when rooted in honesty and compassion, could light even the darkest roads. As they sat side by side facing the unknown, hope blossomed quietly in the spaces between them.